Do you like comic strips and comic books? How about movies based on comic books and comic strips? Well, do I have some bad news for you? Here in June, we're going to be covering movies like that, but from the 1990s, which turned out to be the decade for learning how not to make comic movies. This week's Mound of Crap is The Phantom, the bridge between pulp magazine heroes and the modern comic book heroes. I'm Ollamh, and welcome to Geek Corner Reviews. This movie opens up making the audience think that they walked into the movie partway through and needing to be caught up. It turns out that this story starts with a young boy and a pirate brotherhood. Not exactly a fair fight. Thankfully, there's a native tribe on the island the boy washes up on, and it seems they were just waiting for a white boy to give him their most treasured item that will help him become a hero, a skull ring, and a horrible fashion sense. Getting into what I guess is the modern part of the story, we find two of the dumbest people ever trying to find something or other. They're having problems with the map they're trying to follow, which seems to be wrong. Henchman B says the map can't be wrong given its source, but doesn't really go any further into the subject. Meanwhile, Henchman A says it's all wrong, as the map says there's a bridge behind them, but there wasn't a bridge. Henchmen aren't known for their logic, it seems, as when it's pointed out that the map must be upside down, they still don't believe it. Right up to the point where they come to the bridge. I'm not sure why four guys need a truck that badly, but it seems like it is of vital importance. So they make the kid drive across. He tells them that the jungle is protected, which they don't believe. The question is, if they don't trust the kid, why did they bother to bring him along? They come to the treasure they seem to be after, which is a silver skull. Still not sure why they needed the truck. One henchman gets killed by a skeleton, which doesn't seem to spook anyone all that much as they continue just loading up on treasure. We get our first look at the title hero as he answers the drums, and also get a glance at his bad fashion sense. Bright purple isn't a great color to blend into a jungle. He chases after the bad guys on horseback, which is fine while they're on foot, but how's he gonna keep up with the truck? The mysterious answer is to jump off of his horse into the trees and somehow come up in front of the truck. For someone who doesn't actually have superpowers, the Phantom does seem to benefit from movie logic. The bad guy decides to abandon the truck as it drives out onto the bridge, never minding the fact that he's on the wrong side of the chasm. Our hero survives, of course, and even saves the boy captive. As you might be able to tell already, it's hard to feel a sense of danger and suspense when the movie solves problems by simply ignoring them. We see an encampment of British soldiers that have heard about the Phantom, but, again, as per trope, don't believe in it. Meanwhile, the Phantom looks through his old books and finds out there's a legend of 3 skulls that can harness great power. These skulls were lost when the tribe protecting them was destroyed by the pirates. But doesn't explain why the pirates didn't capture the skulls then. Apparently, the Phantom's father is rather critical. He is very upset that Kit, the current Phantom, turned over one of the skulls. The problem is that even the archive says they were lost, so nobody knew where they were. It's hardly Kit's fault. If Daddy Dearest knew where the skull was, why didn't he leave some kind of warning? It seems that the father might be just the self-doubt and recrimination of the Phantom's fragile psyche as the assistant comes in and the ghost disappears. It would explain why he's overly critical of the young man. We are then whisked away to New York and a party going on as one Miss Palmer comes home during a charity party. Her family isn't exactly welcoming. How dare a woman wear pants? Apparently, high society doesn't believe in consent as we see a would-be suitor assault Miss Palmer while she's making a sandwich.
There's magic there.
Thankfully, we don't see much more of him. We also get to meet one Xander Drax, the charming, suave villain of the picture. He tries to buy out the paper that is about to publish a very damning article on him, but the owner refuses to sell. Uncle Dave shows his evidence to the police commissioner and someone else. As he can't go to follow the trail himself, he sends his niece. It turns out that the police commissioner is in cahoots with Drax, who is trying to clean up his tracks. He meets with a librarian who knew about his research and kills him with razor blades in the eyes? Sure, it would hurt and blind him, but they don't look long enough to kill. Another whisk, and we see Diana on the plane to the island as it is forced down and boarded. They threaten to kill the passengers if Diana doesn't surrender herself, which seems kind of odd. I mean, they can identify the pirates after the fact, so why let them live? The Phantom discovers where the pirates have her held and sends his wolf on ahead, because nobody will notice a wild animal on a boat. Then again, nobody notices a man in bright purple spandex suit climbing over on a mooring rope, so these aren't the most aware people in the world. Kit decides to wander around the boat and crash into what is obviously a shower. Not sure why he started there. After being shot at, he jumps down a laundry chute and stumbles onto where they're holding Diana. He doesn't seem to understand the score as he casually starts untying Miss Palmer in front of the leader of the pilots. The alarms don't worry anyone as they, again, casually threaten one another.
I like that in a man.
And does it seem like Kit is a bit too casual with his words?
Not changed a bit.
Diana just walked out of the room. Maybe that isn't the best time to mention that she hasn't changed and give away the fact that you know her. The Phantom uses his powers of plot convenience again to somehow get ahead of Diana while she's wandering around. This is particularly confusing as he doesn't have a clue about the layout of the boat. Thankfully, the guards are still rather stupid and don't think to look behind the stairs they just came down. Through stellar knowledge of where the guards are going to be and the sheer ineptitude of said guards, the Phantom and Miss Palmer get away onto a plane, which apparently Kit knows how to fly.
You can fly a plane?
The bad guys, which seem to share the Phantom's power of movie magic, manage to follow the plane with a truck and a few horses. After pretty much assuring that Kit will be the last Phantom, they ride through the village of the Rope People and back to the Skull Cave. How this cave hasn't been found out is a miracle. It literally looks like a skull and is in a cliff face in a clearing. It may be many things, but subtle is not one of them. Quill and Selah go back to New York to meet with Drax, who honestly delivers the line most repeated by the audience.
That doesn't make sense.
Kit heads to New York as well and gets himself a driver thanks to a handful of gems. It seems that him and Diana knew each other in college, and they find out where the second skull is, the Museum of World History. Here we see just how bad of a superhero Kit really is. He only remembers that he's supposed to be an everyday guy when people start staring at him. And, unlike later heroes like Batman, his disguise only hides his eyes. His nose, lips, cheeks, and jaw are very distinctive. How does he think Diana won't identify him almost right away? They manage to get to the museum before Drax and take rather direct and obvious actions. Unfortunately, Drax is right behind them, literally. And we see another bit of plot convenience. What would have happened if there hadn't been a map anywhere near them when the skulls were put together? Would it have just burned a hole through walls until it hit a map of just the right area? Drax interrogates Kit in the most awkward and slightly homoerotic fashion.
And what about the skull?
That'll go well with my drapes.
Oh, cute. You're very cute, Mr. Walker.
I claim the body when you're done.
Alright, the scene also hints at a touch of necrophilia. Kit, of course, manages to escape and change into his purple tights in a fashion that leaves no question as to the Phantom's true identity. After some honestly lackluster action, the bad guys are on their way to the Devil's Vortex, with the Phantom right behind them.
Well, I'll be damned.
What?
The Devil's Vortex. We are going to the Devil's Vortex. Have you heard the exciting news? No. We're going to the Devil's Vortex.
Wait, how would he have had a chance to have heard about it? You just found out where you're going on the other side of that door. Unless he had your office bugged, there's no way he could have known. The Phantom is chased through the streets of New York, and is it just me, or do these bikes seem to have a touch of unusual powers as well?
That doesn't make sense.
The chase ends in a zoo where the Phantom's powers to communicate with animals comes in very handy. Kit reaches the skyport in time to watch Drax and his party climb on board a seaplane, and he climbs on the pylon for a long and cold ride. Now this is the point where the movie breaks me. I don't care how good a condition a person is in. There is no way they could survive this. Kit swims out to the plane's pylons, so he's already soaking wet. With the altitude and speed, he should be a phantom sickle long before they reach their destination.
That doesn't make sense.
With a speed of up to 200 miles per hour and a cruising altitude of 13,000 feet, which was normal for seaplanes in the 1930s, he should be dead from asphyxiation. Without pressurization, pilots need oxygen when above 12,500 feet for more than 30 minutes. They're flying up above the clouds well into the morning, so at least 6,500 feet for 6 hours, but realistically higher and longer. In the end, we should have one dead walker and Sayla gets her body.
I claim the body when you're done.
Of course, that would make for a horrible ending, so he miraculously survives, and everyone arrives at the stronghold of the Sang Brotherhood, who are not happy to see them. They kept the pirate idea, but nobody seems to agree on what type of pirate. I'm pretty sure that's Mr. Smee from Never Neverland. The bad guys meet up with Kabai Sang, otherwise known as Shang Tsung. Surprise, surprise, the bad guys don't get along. It seems like mad, power-hungry villains don't like the idea of sharing power. Who knew? Also, we find out that everyone who wrote down the legend had a problem counting. There are supposed to be 4 skulls, 3 to harness the power, the 4th to control it. After the villains fall out, the Phantom jumps down and starts a fight for the skulls. Now, I'm not a gun person, but does crossing your arms to shoot make your aim any better? It doesn't make much sense. Also, where did they get generators and modern technology?
You and Solid can escape in here. I'll shoot you to the surface.
Those are like warheads. If we hit anything, we're fish food.
You won't hit anything. I'll use the periscope to make sure the path is
Sure, use the periscope, but what about the reefs and random rocks under the water that you can't see? This is still very dangerous. Also, as we see in the fight, it's not actually a torpedo that is being launched. It's actually a submarine with torpedoes attached, which indicates that there's some kind of control available. Either that or they have a very expensive weapon system. Drax combines the skulls and absently destroys his most valuable henchman. Granted, with the ineptitude we've seen thus far, value is a subjective term. The fourth skull, as it turns out, is the Phantom's ring. Kit claims he's worn it all his life, but wouldn't he have worn it only after his father died? If there's only one ring that can control the power, it would be worn by the current Phantom, which Kit has only been for 6 years. The Phantom wins the day, which isn't a surprise in any fashion, and gets towed out behind the submarine as the Sang Brotherhood's base blows up. The movie ends pretty much by trope. The hero goes back to being a hero, the female lead learns his secret identity, and it's indicated they will get together, just not right now. And that was The Phantom, a rather typical 90s era comic movie. It suffers from a lot of problems of the time, the hero having the power of movie convenience more than any real special ability. Not really heavy on action or exceptional intelligence or really anything other than good guy does good for good reasons. He even has the mystical power to remove the black makeup around his eyes when the hood and mask come off, just to get it back when they're put back on. It's not a great movie, but given what superhero movies were in the 90s, it's not horrible either. So what do you think about The Ghost Who Walks? Were you even aware of the movie before now, or is this your first introduction to it? Do you think it should be remade with a possible future of the Defenders of the Earth with Mandrake the Magician and Flash Gordon, or have we seen enough superhero groups? I would love to know your thoughts and opinions, so please leave a comment down below, send us a tweet or a post on our Facebook page, and let's talk about it. With this purple pile of crap out of the way, who knows what entry will be dumped into our laps next week. I know. Crap! As always, thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to press the subscribe button down below so that you can stay tuned for more from Ollamh Productions.
If you wanna see some
Cheerio!
and also lazy, then you should meet me and my friends. Even though
Rey
we got
shows
no
that she
money,
is
but
very
sure
strong in the
funny,
Force,
everything's
making
better
use of
than
powers
down
that
with
she
just
hasn't
one
been
move.
taught, up to the point of actually being able to confront Kylo Ren. Oh, come on. At least come up with a lie that Sinclair won't know right away is a lie.